Hello everyone, my name is Ricardo Miguel Silva. I'm the Knowledge Master for the Services Organization in OutSystems, and I'm here today to present and accompany as well Paulo Costa, our platform operations expert, who is going to deliver a webinar named Hit the Load Jack, Mobile Load Testing for OutSystems Mobile Apps. Paulo Costa has presented a webinar before, so it was co-hosted as well with Ivo Gonçalves. You did a webinar on security for OutSystems, for OutSystems apps, and he is here today to teach everyone how to set up load tests for OutSystems mobile apps. So what's on the menu today, Paulo?
All right, everyone. Hope you're having a good day, and I'll try to be brief. On the agenda today, first, we need to understand why and when to do the load testing, specifically the mobile load testing. Then I'm going to talk a bit about the gray area that's now present on the load performance and stress testing definition.
I have my doubts myself.
Yeah, there's a gray area out there, and everyone seems to have a different opinion on this. So I'll give my opinion on this too. Then I'm going to present a live demo, which is kind of a shortened version, and maybe we can disclose right now. We are going to make the demo live using some tools, but some steps we are going to skip them and show you immediately the results. But we are also going to release a couple of videos that will be posted in the forums, and even on this video when you watch it later, you will see the links to other videos that have those extra steps that we're going to skip here. Otherwise, the webinar would take hours.
3 hours?
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
And we understood this when we were
doing our dry run.
Yeah, doing our dry run, and we saw, okay, maybe we could shorten this a little bit. And after the demo, for the live demo, we're going to use some very specific tools. First of all, we're going to use OutSystems, the OutSystems platform. That's right. What a surprise. So we're going to use the Task Manager. It's an app that is present on the Forge. It's a mobile app. We're going to launch this app on our browser, which is the Google Chrome browser. I don't know if you heard about it before. It's quite useful.
I've heard it.
Yeah, it has a thing that we need to use, and it's very, very, very nice.
It's a tool we love. We all love to use.
And JMeter, why JMeter? You can use lots of tools to make load tests, even for mobile applications. But JMeter is an open source tool. I personally enjoy using JMeter a lot, and it's easy to understand, and it's incredibly powerful and community driven. So that's why I like it.
So all of these are free. Anyone that's watching the webinar right now can use them.
Everyone can download Google Chrome. Anyone can use JMeter for free, and everyone who possesses the OutSystems license can go to the Forge, download the app, install the app, launch it, run it, do the tests, and that's basically it.
Sounds good.
And then we're going to have a quick Q&A session. So, first things first, why and when to do the load testing. So, when do you need to do load testing? Well, this shouldn't even be a question. You need to do the load testing always. And why do you need to do the load testing always? Because you need to mitigate risks. You need to plan your demands and avoid outages. So, when I say
before we move on, you have continuous integration cycles in there.
Yeah.
What do you mean by continuous integration cycle?
Well,
how does it make sense within a continuous integration cycle?
Okay. In classical development, you are making code on your desktop and then you commit to GitHub. But in between, if you are using already a pipeline in Jenkins, for instance, you can say, okay, I want to make a build. I want to use, for instance, Maven, make a build. Then you launch a tool that already has a test plan integrated. For instance, Jenkins has this option. You launch JMeter, and you do the test, and in the end, it will tell you, okay, this run looks good, or the response times are horrible. So depending on that, it will launch a new commit or not to GitHub. In OutSystems, this is quite different. We are a local platform, so we do things differently. We have the one-click publish. So you don't launch a new load test every time you build a new application every time you click the one-click publish button.
Mm-hmm.
But you know what's better than not doing anything at all? Doing at least once. So even if on your schedule tasks, on your cron tab, on your Jenkins scheduler, during the night, 1 time per night, 10 times per night, 1 time per week, it doesn't matter. Doing at least once is better than doing never, okay? So until there's a way to do the one-click publish, and until you find a way to organize your work to do the one-click publish and then launch immediately a new test, do whatever is better for you, for your cycle of development, okay? This is an agile practice. Just inspect and adapt, just like in Scrum. You see, when is the best time to do the load test? When does it not impact your development cycle, and do the load test? The important thing is to do it.
Okay, and you just schedule it and you're on.
Yeah. Okay. So you also do this in order to compare runs, and that's why I mentioned Jenkins, because Jenkins has a performance plugin publisher which collects the data from the JMeter results and then makes a comparison and makes charts for comparisons for all the actions inside your tests and etc. And then you'll get a grasp on either you are doing the correct development or not. So if you decide to, I don't know, change some action, and in that action you start calling a new web service that takes a lot of time to answer, then you'll have a problem. But this is why you should do the load tests at least, I don't know, at least once a day during the night. Do load tests on your environment. Oh, another thing, don't do it in production, okay? Once you go live,
you should test before it's in production.
Yeah,
to make sure it's working for all the users.
Yes, don't. If you can use the production environment if you are still not in live mode, okay? If you are still trying to understand if the environment is good enough for that. But that takes us to another question, which is regarded to the differences between load test performance and stress testing.
Okay. I have my own issues with that.
It seems everyone has right now.
Yeah.
So this is my view. What is the load testing? The load testing checks the global package of systems and applications working together, and this is under a black box vision.
Mm-hmm.
You have a test, you have your actions in that test, you test it all, and in the end, you'll understand, okay, if I launch a high load of users, what my business decides to be the goal of my peak hours during the day. For instance, I have a banking application, and I think on my business goals, I have the ideal 500 or 5,000 concurrent users during the peak hour. Okay, so you plan your test to have 5,000 concurrent users during 1 hour, and you test it, and that's it.
So you know your application will hold up. Your application, not your application. This is the backend server, not the application.
Yes, and that's another thing. That's the big difference between mobile and web apps. But before going to that, the difference between the load testing and the performance testing is that the load testing goes into a black box vision, while the performance testing goes into a lot more detail. Okay, and for performance testing, you don't need to use the 5,000 concurrent users at once. You can test with 1 user, 10 users, 100, 1 million, doesn't matter. Every data is relevant. Every single bit of data is relevant, because you look at not only how your actions are in terms of response times and latency, but also how your database is responding, how your servers are in terms of use of IIS, CPU, memory usage, etc., etc., etc. So it behaves differently for 1 or 10 users. You'll get to know better how the infrastructure works.
But you also know if it does not work for 1 user, it will not work for 2, it will not work for 10.
Yeah, I'd say that's quite probable.
Yeah, I would say the same.
Yeah, that's a good bet. That's a good bet.
Yeah.
So there's still another kind of test that are now being done. It's the stress tests. The stress tests are quite simple to understand. You'll try to break your systems, okay? That's it. You'll try to understand when will I break my systems. For instance, I talked about the peak hours during a day, but there's also an extreme load scenario, like Black Friday scenarios for e-commerce or even banking applications. On Black Fridays, the volume is absolutely nuts. So you need to test those scenarios and understand, will this break my systems or not? Not like in the load tests where you'll say, okay, during my peak hours, how is my response time? How is my end user? I don't want to understand if it's my database or my server that has a high CPU. I don't need to check this for now. I just want to know, does my application with 5,000 concurrent users have good response times? Is the end user experience good? Cool. Okay. For stress testing, will 10 million users at the same time break my system? Well, quite probably yes, but you'll understand exactly when. That's why stress testing is also used. Now, you were asking about the mobile versus web.
Yes. Exactly. What's the difference? Because we've had a webinar before presented by platform operations expert Rui Mendes before, and he presented a webinar specifically on JMeter and load tests.
Yes, I hope it's in the audience. I hope it's also in the audience right now. And he made a very good webinar, and he used JMeter also. I was the wingman. I was in this room listening to his webinar. The big difference between his approach and this approach for mobile apps is that, well, scripts for web apps tend to be more complex. This is because when you open your browser and you start making the first call to your server, basically you retrieve all of the static elements from there. You retrieve every image, you retrieve lots of JavaScript, do a lot of JavaScript from and to the server, and this tends to make the things way more complex. Also, there are view states involved. You need to map the view states. It's kind of a big thing to do, a web load test. For mobile load test, you can simplify this a lot. You have to understand the logic first, but once you get a grasp of the logic, it becomes way more simple to do the load tests, okay? Because the mobile app, when you download a mobile app for your phone, when you open up, you already have most of the resources there. Basically, what you are going to do to your backend server are requests, which are XML HTTP requests. And basically, what you do is you make a post, and afterwards you get a response, okay? This is the only thing that actually stresses the backend server. For instance, you are on your mobile banking app. You open up the app and you retrieve the data from your user, right? So you have your integrated positions and et cetera, and et cetera. And then you decide to make a transfer. While you're swiping in the menus, while you're inputting the data, you're not sending nothing to the backend yet. You're not sending anything to the backend yet.
It's all client.
Yeah, it's all client side. So you don't need to test that. For testing that, it's a completely different set of tests. It's the mobile farm tests, okay, where you understand how the application behaves in your specific mobile device. For the load tests, what you're trying to understand is how does my backend react when I have millions of users or thousands of users concurrently connected to it, okay, and making requests to the backend. And that's the big difference. So I hope this cleared out at least my vision, because if you ask the next guy, you will tell you a different vision. Yeah, it's a gray area, but I tend to use this, and it's shared with, for instance, guys from JMeter. JMeter is a company that makes tests, load tests, and they have a very, very nice product. You can check it. It has a free account to check it. And they share the same vision and they have a lot of great resources there for understanding not just load testing but JMeter also, because they use JMeter too.
It makes sense, at least from my view. It makes
Good.
sense.
Hopefully it makes sense.
Hopefully it makes sense for everyone.
Yeah. So now the resources. What are we going to use for this webinar demonstration? Like I said, I'm going to use the Task Manager mobile app from OutSystems Forge, the Apache JMeter 3.2 that was released a couple of weeks ago from JMeter-apache.org, the Google Chrome browser, a converter. I'm going to use an online converter from BlazeMeter, but I'm going to show you also the possibility of converting some files offline. So if you're not comfortable, and totally understand that, if you're not comfortable in passing some data online to convert a file into the JMeter format, it makes sense from a security perspective. You can do it offline with a tool that I'm going to show you. But for this test, and this has absolutely no sensitive data at all, I can use the BlazeMeter converter. It's free, it's online. And then Jenkins, which I made an italic here on Jenkins because, well, this is an extra. I'm just going to show you how pretty it can be if you use a pipeline for your JMeter test.
You're kind of promising something there.
Well,
I have the word automation in my mind. We talked about continuous integration.
Yeah.
And
well,
I think that's the way to go.
It depends.
Eventually.
If the audience starts typing on the chat that they want a new webinar on automation, well, probably we can start thinking on it.
Okay.
So let's move on to the demonstration, and hopefully you can see my screen here. Everyone can check. It's visible? It's visible?
Yeah.
So first thing, this is the Task Manager page on the OutSystems Forge. You just have to log in the OutSystems page to be able to download it, and download it or install it directly through the development environment, the studio.
It has a few dependencies.
Yeah, it has a few dependencies. If you download it through the development environment, it will take care of the dependencies. It's nothing extraordinary. And once you download it, you can access it through here, through the Service Center of the OutSystems. And let me filter this task. There it is. There's the Task Manager. Okay. So now you probably already know this if you're an OutSystems user. If you click on Test App, this is what happens. You get to see your application.
You have the device up there.
Yes, and you can simulate the device. Let's go for the i6 Plus. No, it's too big for the screen. Let's stick with the iPhone 6. And there's another thing that can be done, which is my favorite way of working for this test. If you remove everything in between the name of your environment or server and the application name, and if you enter it, you can see the application in full screen.
It's not mobile anymore. Oh, no, it's mobile again.
And that's mobile again. What did I just do? F12 on Google Chrome launches the Chrome DevTools. And you really want to have this on your browser for the load test, okay? Because this allows you to get every resource from what you're doing in your browser and simulating your application. So first things first, once the DevTools are open, you go to the network interface. No, before that, let's do another thing. Let's go to the application, okay? Let's go to the application, and now let's clear everything. Clear the site data, okay? Everything regarding this application, if you have it loaded before, it's now clear, okay? You have nothing stored on your browser regarding this application.
So you start with a clean slate.
Absolutely. Okay. Also, even if I clear the storage, I still need to come to the session storage and clear this strings. These strings will basically tell the browser that I do not know this application. I have never touched this application before. Okay. So I had the second tab here open. I don't need it anymore because I'm going to do this from this one. So I go back to the network. Okay. And I click the preserve log. Just like the description says, it tells the log that's going to show up on the screen, not to be cleared if I navigate away from the page, or for instance, when we load the splash screen of an application, then the page is forwarded to a new page and the log would be clean. So we want to keep everything here, okay? And now I'm going to log in with a username. And to have this username, you just go to the OutSystems platform server service center, and you open, or you can directly access the /users. If you're an OutSystems user, you already know this. You go to the OutSystems users, you go to the task manager users, you create a few users there, and allocate some passwords, some very safe ones, like the one I created for Robert Smith.
You set up some users before, you have them set up in your example?
Yes, and I will show you the users that I have created.
Because what you're guessing is the login action as well?
Yes.
It's one of the...
So I created a few users and I placed them in a file, the comma-separated values file. Robert Smith, Andrew McCarthy, Clark Parsons, blah, 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 and the users are these, which are extremely secure, as you can see. They follow the best practices in the universe.
So this is no longer a security webinar like the one you did before, it's a completely different one?
And by the way, since you mentioned that probably some users are saying, wait a minute, this guy is using a not secure website. Why? This is strike.red. Well, this is a VM. I installed the platform server in a virtual machine just for, this is just for the demo, okay? So, and since this is not exposed to the internet, and I didn't feel that I should have imported a valid certificate, a public trusted certificate here. So I'm just using a self-signed certificate on IIS, and it's just for the demo. The VM will be destroyed afterwards. Okay? So it's like the Mission Impossible's missions. They will be destroyed.
There's no critical data here.
No, unless you want to see the tasks from Robert Smith, that's not a problem. So Robert Smith logs in with the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Very, very secure password. So look at what happens now. Oh, yeah, I had this page open for a while, so that's okay. That's not a problem. Let's go again to the application. Let's go again to the clear storage, clear everything, clear the session storage.
This might happen to anyone who's setting up a load test anyway.
Yes, probably it will happen a lot of times to the people that are going to set up load tests, okay?
You have a session timeout and you just have to deal with it.
Yes. Okay. So now I'm going to clear again my log, preserving that option, and now I'm going to load that page again. And there you see the splash screen, the loading of the local resources that are being emulated here on the browser or inside the browser. One other thing, why did I use Chrome and not, for instance, Mozilla Firefox? Because Chrome has a local storage, it allows local storage, so it can emulate perfectly a web app. Mozilla cannot, Firefox cannot do that for now, okay? So this is why Chrome is the de facto tool to do this. So first things first, I see a lot of things here, okay? But like I said, the mobile app does not go to the backend server lots of times. It just goes once in a while to make a post request, get the answer back. And the rest of the processing is done locally. So if I go here, again, to my service center, if I go to the monitoring, and let's wait a bit, let's not forget this is a very slow VM that I have here. Let's go to the, mobile requests. And there it goes. It's slow.
Takes a while because it's supposedly a slow virtual machine.
Also, this is a virtual machine that is way below the minimum requirements. So it's going to be slow on the screens because I made it purposely slow. Also, don't expect the load test that we're going to set up to have great results because the machine, well, it's a very slow machine.
Even so, I think they might be surprising in the end.
Yeah, hopefully so.
Taking into account what you just said about the server, that it's extremely slow.
Yes. But let's do this. Look, I have here a filter. I'm going to filter just for the requests that were made from 14 p.m. GMT plus 1. So I'm filtering. And as you can see, it's now 14:27. I loaded up my app at 14:25. Okay? This was my sync static data, which,
because it was a first run, so you have to synchronize all the data that's not still on the device.
Yes. For instance, some apps will try to download new images when they load up after, I don't know, every week or so. The cache goes away and it tries to download new images for the headers inside the application, whatever. So that it seems the static data. That is static data that is retrieved.
So this is an absolute first run for you.
Absolutely. Okay. So what I'm going to filter here is, I know that the action is named static data. So where is it? Static data. There it goes.
You're filtering by the search on Chrome DevTools.
Yes. Okay. This is the search field on Chrome DevTools. And this is important. Why? Because as you can see, the method being used here is a post method. So we're not getting images, CSS, PNG, everything, JS, JavaScript. We're not using any of those, okay? So what I want to filter here is basically this. For every request from now on, I want to have the method post, okay? Also, I know that I don't want to have JavaScript. So it's minus, which means remove, .js. Also, .css, or I don't know, fonts, for instance, fonts, or .png, or .ps. I'm just making it up. Just having fun. So basically, what you want to have is the log of the XML HTTP requests with method post. Okay, so you're probably thinking in the audience, wait a minute, but that's probably some gets that I might want to use. Well, yes, there are some gets that you might want to use, but that's up to you and your application. For instance, if you're developing an application and you need to retrieve something from an external URL, you are doing that by using a get method. Okay, but you know that on your application, so when you decide to create a load test, you know exactly what get to retrieve here, so you can filter that exact get here too. For this mobile application, for the task manager, I have none, so I'm just going to use this. Okay, so now I'm going to finally use Mr. Robert Smith from the Cure and log in.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Forgot to log in, and there you go. Action login user and action sync all user data. And that's fine. Now, what do I have here? If I filter, let's put this from 425. I know the first request was on 425.44, so let's make it this 40. Okay. And now I have the sync static data, the login user, and the sync all user data. Exactly the 3 requests I can filter here. Nice. Okay, so from now on, you can do stuff here. Oh, notice I'm swiping away. I'm navigating in my application, and nothing is being sent to the backend server.
It's all client side.
Mobile apps versus web apps. Okay. So let's click this one and let's mark this app as done. Now I just sent a request to the backend server. So any other user that shares the same task would see this task marked as open too. So I need to send the backend server an information on that. So it stores on that database that can be accessed by several users. So this is the request that I make. Let's make another one very quickly. Let's go into the This one, yeah. And mark it as done. And there you go, another one. And if I go here, sorry about that click. If I go here, there you go, task sync list. Action, task sync list. Perfect. So if you have a user story for your load test, let's say, okay, I have a user, I log in and I mark 2 tasks as done. And that's your user story. This is it. This is the test you want to have done. These are the 5 actions you need to use to build a complete script.
So all the clutter is out of this, and you just have the actions that impact the backend server.
Exactly. Let me do one thing. I'm going to cap the values on the filter so you just see the amount of clutter we have removed from the script.
Control X, please.
Control X, yeah, so we can do it next. The Control E, and there you go. You see? This is all happening, but only 5 of these are done in the backend server. Okay. And that's what we want to test in the mobile apps test.
Control V.
Okay. Yeah, it's weird. It lagged a little bit, so it scared me. But okay. And now you're saying, this is all very nice, but how do I translate this into a JMeter test and one that runs with several users? Because I don't want to have only Roberts and Keith testing. I want to have 1 million users. Well, like I said, I created 5. I'm just going to use this 5. Remember, this is a demo. This is not an actual load test for an application that I'm going to push to the Play Store. But ideally, you have thousands of users that you can launch concurrently for your server, okay? What I'm going to do now is I'm going to right-click one of the actions, and I'm going to do save as HAR with content. Okay.
What does that mean?
I'm going to save HAR. Well, that you cut me on that one. Probably on the format in the Q&A. Yeah, it's the format that stores all the information from the HTTP requests, and I'm going to save it here on the desktop. Okay. And now,
is that format specific to Chrome DevTools?
No. You can, for instance, if you wish to implement some plugin that generates an HAR directly from the mobile app, you can do it. It carries some work to do. It brings some work, but you can simulate with your application. You can do some user stories, some actions, and then export a file containing all this, okay? You can do it not just in Chrome, but also from your applications. For now, I am going to use just Chrome with this. Okay,
but this is exporting the whole gamut of actions that you have listed there, or the ones that are filtered?
Yes.
What is it doing?
This is the first thing, the first trick you'll have to learn. This is the HAR file, okay? And it should contain only the 5, ideally, right? Yeah, those 5 actions. Well, Google's still working. There's an open issue on the Google forums about this, and it's a request to make the filter that you have work out to the HAR file.
Okay.
For now, you'll get everything. So that filter I showed you there is just good to understand that there is a relation between what you see in the Chrome, in the Chrome browser, and the Service Center, okay? You can make that relation. But once you export, you have everything. And now, you'll have to do 2 things. First, convert it to JMeter format, which is JMX, and then clean up the clutter again. And it's quite a big task. If you see here, there's already lots of files, lots of lines. So, and it's
44,000.
So it's big. so now
that sounds like a task.
Yes. In some cases, trust me, it's a big task to do this cleaning.
But just one question. This is, you set this once and you forget about it. You set the test once, you don't have to.
If you do all the user stories that you wish on the browser here, then you save the file and you don't need to get back to the browser again.
Okay, so that's what I meant. It's set it and forget it.
Yes.
There's your test.
Yes.
Takes a little bit of effort to clean it up and prepare it. But
actually, I'm using JMeter, but some other some other programs or tools might use the HAR directly. I'm not familiar with all the tools, but because I use JMeter all the time, and I really enjoy using JMeter. But probably the HAR can be used directly in another app. I don't know. Yeah. But now you need to transform the HAR into a JMeter file. And for that, you have two options. The first one is the one that I'm going to use, is the converter online from BlazeMeter. I have here.
You're a fan, so we understand it.
Basically, you choose the file you want to upload, you convert, there's a window here, you download it, and it's done.
It says right up there it's a JMX converter, so you know that you're going to feed it something and JMX will come out.
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
The other option is to search a bit, and that window is preventing me from clicking on the right side, is to go to places like GitHub and search for projects that allow you to do this offline. Because like I said in the beginning, if you have concerns about data privacy, yes, don't use an online tool. That's perfectly understandable. So you can do it offline. You can also opt to use JMeter with a copy-paste methodology. Basically, you pick everything from Chrome and you copy and paste every single field into a JMeter. I've done it once or twice, then I started using Google to find an online converter, okay?
44,000 lines might take a little bit to copy and paste.
And this was a very, very simple user story. So that's not a good option. So this is a good example. This page on GitHub, you download the zip file from here, you extract it, you use this. These instructions are quite clear. You just build something, then the file will be inside here, and the binary, and then you just use what you just built, the binary. You pass the HAR file and then JMX file for the output, and it's done. And you get the same JMX, okay? I'm not going to do this. I'm going to use the converter online. Basically, I already have it here. So I use this HAR file, and I got this JMX file. So now I'm going to launch JMeter. 3.2 launched a couple of weeks ago. Very nice improvements. Java 1.8, performance improvements all around. And when I load up the JMeter, I'm going to, not this window, I'm going to load the JMX file into here. And there you go.
And this is a resulting file from
the converter online. So here you go. You get all this that you still need to clean up, okay? These are all the HTTP requests that you saw in the HAR file. And we know from Chrome that we only need 5 actions. Now let's find something in common with these 5 actions. And this is another accelerator that I can show you for the mobile apps in OutSystems. Look at the request URL. Look at this, screen services. Now look at the login user, screen services. Now look at every other one, screen services.
Okay, that's something in common?
There's something in common. There's a pattern. So I know that everything that does not contain screen services can be removed from my script, right?
Because you just want these.
I just want requests that have the screen services. Maybe there are more screen services in here, then I will have to remove them. But let's check. Let's use the search file in JMeter, screen services, search and expand. And as I do this, let me expand JMeter a little bit. You see there's a red box outside my thread group and stuff, but I don't see anything here yet. I'm scrolling and scrolling, and there you go. So basically the first one is this one in the end. And then I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Oh, it matches.
So
you know the rest is clutter. You can just go ahead and remove.
So let's go and immediately delete every request that does not have the screen services embedded. So let's do this, let's do this. While I'm deleting, you are probably already noticing that I have the random timers. Now you're not seeing it because I'm doing the delete of the big bunch. I have the 5 requests I wanted here. And I have an header manager and a random timer on each one. This random timer is basically the time that took me to do the actions, or in between the actions on Chrome. It also says this in the timeline.
Okay, so there's an extra layer that it's the user side.
Yes. It's basically, we call this the think times.
Okay.
But for this particular test, I'm going to remove them because I can add think times later according to my business goals. I can say between the first and the second task editing, I take 15 seconds and just add the think time on JMeter. It's quite simple to do. Just click here, add think times to children, right click on the virtual users on the thread group, add think times to children, and that's it. You define the timing there. Also, you have an header manager on each request. Basically, you don't need one header manager per request. You need one header manager for all the requests to inherit. So you move the first one to the root of your test, okay?
So it will run on all the children there.
Yes, and all the children when it will inherit. But now, here's the last thing to know. And this is where we're going to take quite a shortcut. Because there's a thing called a Crosssite forgery request vulnerability.
That's a mouthful.
The CXCSRF. OutSystems implemented a technique which consists of introducing a token. It's an extra layer of security. What this means is that besides username and password, once you log in, you get a token that you pass back to the server whenever you want to make a request. So during that session, you always pass the token, okay? But we need to understand one thing. When I loaded the application, I wasn't logged in. So if I go to request headers, I see this token, okay? But I was an anonymous user by then. Then I logged in. And before I sent the login action, or when I sent the login action per se, I was still not logged in. That's what I was trying to do. So I'm still sending the same anonymous token, the T6C plus whatever. The answer back tells me, and here are the response headers. The server tells me, okay, in your cookies from now on, you set this, okay? And this, look at the end, Robert Smith. And in the beginning, you see a CRF, and then percentage 3D, which is an equal sign in URL encoding. And it goes with a string, and it ends with a percentage 3D, which is a semicolon. So if I look at this string here, until the percentage 3D, which is an equal sign, and I look, remember, it's DOJ, okay? Look at the next request I make to the server. Look at the token.
Oh, it's different.
It's the one, I said, OJJ, I said OJJ, no, it's OJJ, capital J. It's small letters, come on, my glasses, I need to change my lenses. So, OJJ, so it's the same one that the server sent back here. And the next request will keep doing the same, and the next request will keep doing the same until I log out. Okay? So we need to extract the token from here, from the response headers of the login user. You extract the token and you reuse it in the next request. Make sense?
Okay, absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. So how do you do this in JMeter? Well, this is a video that we're going to share with you that will take about 10 minutes to watch, okay? But I have a detailed explanation, and I'll speak about URL encoding, which I had here somewhere. I had here an example, for instance, the percentage 3D that I was showing. If I decode that, you see it's an equal sign. All right. So this is where we found out which characters this word, okay? So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to load the final script after the extraction of the token and with a few extra modifications, so you can see how a load test will look at the end. So I'm going to the resources webinar where I stored my things for this webinar, and load this new script. And I don't want to save this one. And there you go. You still have an header manager, the same one we had before. The cookie manager would just saying, okay, every time I log in, or before I log in a new user, clear the cookies, because we want that. The cache manager, which says exactly the same thing, but for the cache, so we don't have caching here. We have the virtual users. This is where I load the users file. Those 5 users, that should have been a million users on the CSV file. They are in the format user, comma, password, okay? The delimiter is comma. So
comma separated.
Comma separated. That's where it comes from, the CSV, right?
Yeah.
So every time I log in, I'm going to use one of those users. If I want to have 5 concurrent users, I'm pretty sure it will use the 5 users instead of using always the same, okay? And then I separated this, the 5 actions I had, well, actually I had 8 in this one. I separated in before login and after login, okay? So the header manager goes into this one and this one, and it sends the anonymous token, because these are public actions. They can be retrieved by anonymous users. But from now on, I extract the token here, and this is what I'll explain in the other video, because this would take long to explain.
It's a regular expression.
It's a regular expression, but it follows certain rules. And I allocate a new variable to this, and then I say, okay, my new variable, when I decode it, and this is a JMeter function, it's now a new header manager for the XCSRF token. So every request, every child request here will assume this new token, all right? So what will happen is this will work instead of in the other script. I could have shown how the other script would have failed, but it wouldn't look good.
It would have failed on the token because it would assume the anonymous token and not the logged in.
The first 2 actions, the ones that use the anonymous token, would work because they're anonymous, but the 3 actions following would fail with the invalid login. Because the server would say, yes, you are telling me you are Robert Smith, but where's the token? And I say, the token is this one for the anonymous user. And it would say, no, you're not Robert Smith, you're still the anonymous user. So that's why I'll fail. Notice that I already included some think times here.
To all the children there?
To all the children. I added listeners, which are results viewing graphs and tables. Basically, you get the results from the test and you present them here. There are other tools to present. And I also use a different thread group. When you pick up the thread group here, you can say a simple thread group is the default one. But I like to use the concurrency thread group because it allows you to create steps and ramp-up periods in a more timely fashion. For now, what I'm going to try to use is launch 500 users, 500 concurrent users on this server during 5 minutes in steps of 50 users each, so 10 steps during these 5 minutes. This is the profile. I'll start with 50, then another 50, and another 50 until the 500, and then I'll hold 500 concurrent users for another 5 minutes.
Okay, so we're ready to run the test now?
We're ready to run the test. And I'm going to do something that you should never do with JMeter, which is launch a big test in GUI mode. Okay, because it will eat every single bit of RAM you have on the server.
So you do it on the command shell?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, let's do one thing. I'm going to do just one user, one user, one user, one user. And I'm going to, let's make it test results 2. This is my output file, okay, here. And let's just start this one. And it's running, it's running, it's running, it's running, it's running. If I go to the summary report, there you go, the actions, the login, I'm creating a project. I'm going to sync the list, etc., etc. Notice the error percentage, 0. So I don't have any 403 error forbidden. Also, one other thing that you might want to use, but don't abuse this in load tests, the assertions. What I'm doing here is For this request that I make, I'm making sure that in the answer, something like ID 236 gets back. Okay? So this makes sure that the answer is what I'm expecting. Don't abuse this in load tests because this eats a lot of memory and slows down a lot the test. Okay? This is more for functional tests. This is just an assertion, one in the test, it's okay. So we do the summary, we see the summary report, the test is being done, it will take a minute, I guess, and now a few seconds extra. Since I said that I only want one user for 1 minute, once the user finishes the first iteration, it will launch again until I reach the 1 minute mark. And then once I reach 1 minute mark, it will finish the one that it's doing, and that's basically it. So I had already 4 logins. Now I'm expecting to have 4 logouts, and once I reach the 4 logouts, there it goes.
There you go.
The script will end. Oh no, I'm still launching one other. Oh, probably I said more. Oh, after 1 minute, I'm expecting it to keep for another minute. Okay, so the test is running. This is working. I'm going to stop it because now I'm going to show you the results very quickly, okay? Because the webinar is taking already quite some time and probably you're falling asleep in your place right now. But let me show you the scores of this test. The JMeter, the resources, webinar. Let me show you how an HTML report that's embedded on JMeter works. This is for the 500 users, concurrent users, that I was testing. This test was done previously today or yesterday at midnight. It was a scheduled test, so don't think I was up until midnight doing this. And this morning, just like it was supposed to be in a continuous integration cycle, this morning I woke up and saw, okay, this looks very good. You have lots of graphics here. You see the response times according to the number of users, which are named active threads here. You do all this, you check all this, you have lots of information to analyze, and that's the goal. Okay, and you still have another thing. If you want to use Jenkins and publish these reports into Jenkins, it's possible, and this is how it will look. This is how you'll compare builds. I made the first test, then I made a simple change in the application, made a second test, and this is a performance breakdown, okay? And if I click this link, I have the trends for each action, okay? So if I change one action, I'll be able to check the differences here. Look, the differences are from 38 milliseconds to 42 milliseconds, so this is a normal variance, not relevant, okay? The changes I made to my application made no real impact, so this is good, and this is what should be done in continuous integration analysis after a new build, okay? So you'll understand that you can pass or not to a new environment.
Paulo, all these resources that you use for the webinar, they'll be made available?
Yes.
The more detailed videos on how to capture the tokens for the logins?
Capture the tokens, some extra about the configuration for the thread groups, for the concurrent users, how you'll find the sweet spot for the concurrent users, how you'll define the sweet spot for the stepping threads, for the listeners, how to launch all this in a command line, so you can make a scheduled test, which is this script right here. You can launch just like this. It's a very simple bat file. You can put it on a scheduled test to run during the night. And if there's also interest, maybe using performance plugin in Jenkins, maybe something like that. And all of this will be available, and all these resources are free to use.
So anyone can replicate this after the webinar? And
hopefully,
you have all the resources
hopefully
with your instructions?
Yes. The resources will be there. My instructions are probably not as clear as I wished they were, but hopefully you guys will understand my point. And it's open source. JMeter is open source, freeware. So go out there, search,
and go crazy.